talk about it all as an entire board. Okay. I think we should just address it now with the entire board. There doesn't need to be a subcommittee.
There was a suggestion or a question if there would be if it would be advantageous to have sit down with the attorney and the people who wrote this for little questions.
Okay.
So
I'm happy to participate in that.
Okay. So I can arrange it, get this to him and then say the remaining subcommittee member is, would like to, since you know the material more than others, would like to have a meeting and
I can do that.
and I can set that up.
Okay.
And if you want somebody to hold your hand, I'll go.
Well, maybe you should come because you're very passionate about it. I mean, I am too, but you are as well. That would be great.
Okay. Is there anything else? Did you want to
Yeah, I
move on?
I'm all set. Item 4.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Is that
Here we go.
that's item 4, right? That yep.
Yes. I know. Me too. Do you want to go? Do you want me to cover this, Amy? This is your slide.
Yeah, I just put this because that's one of the pieces of the outreach is the process bulletin. We can certainly skip over this and get to the this is all this bulletin that we covered last time. But here, why don't you take this one slide about everything except the bulletin.
Okay, so I've not watched the community meeting. I was under the impression that we were gonna get an update from staff on how that went.
You can say
we
whatever
can-
you want.
It's a retreat, so if you were not there, then you can through the chair, I guess.
Oh, yeah,
if
there you go.
Yeah.
Was anybody there?
Yes, there were several owners of properties that are potentially eligible and were part of the survey we talked about and remain potentially eligible as well. There were definitely concerns expressed, particularly regarding property values and being able to modify their homes going forward. I think we did have a commercial property owner as well who had significant concerns. But at the same time, I did hear that people were trying to keep an open mind. There were a lot of questions about what are the benefits here, like wanting to understand what this meant for their properties. It was, I heard some kind of hard nose right out of the gate, but there were other people that were really more, tell me more. And I thought that was interesting, people who were really seeking information. I don't know if you had a different sense.
No, but I have to say that we had some supporters there that weren't necessarily property owners of the affected properties. Yeah. But there were some who had, who would be affected property owners who were also supportive. So it was mixed. There was one very negative, but I think he, would have been really negative no matter what was going on. So I don't think that was a reflection on the meeting. The meeting was rugged because we had communications issues. So, it was hard getting started. It was hard televising it. The whole process was awkward. So that did not make it go more smoothly, but we're going to fix that next time. So
it was held in this room. So there was, yeah.
This is a small room.
no, there were not that many people. It
Oh, there
works
weren't?
fine size wise. What
Yeah.
was wrong was we didn't know how to work the system.
It was like IT difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was more led by PJ Turnbull, not so much the HRB.
Mhm.
We didn't really participate at all, we just witnessed, observed. And were the kind of like the dissenters, was it just around like, you can't tell me what to do with my property, I'm concerned about this is gonna be designated and then I lose.
Yeah, I think it was broad concerns about restrictions in general and what that would mean for them.
Okay. Great, okay. Better process for next community meeting. I think it sounds like just having the technology ready to go and set up and functional when people come in. anything else?
I think maybe what Alyssa was talking about, I think maybe have Page and Turnbull be secondary and have a moderator from the HRB, Alyssa, who is more, community, more face of the city, and yes, have Page and Turnbull and our people talk, but sort of have the image be the HRB.
I agree. That's probably. If the survey is being completed by the HRB, we should give the voice to the speaker box. It's doing outreach. I mean, outreach bulletin came from the city, came from, I think, your name, right? Or did it have anyone say where the HRB?
For the community meeting, we
Yeah, it-
prepared it on staff to send it out to try to click, and it'll be different the next time because people will have received a letter about their specific property being eligible for nomination, right? Because after we've gone through this first stage, there will be people that will, I guess, we can have another letter that says, as you know, your home built in 2020 or whatever is not, no longer an eligible home.
Yeah,
So
and
there'll be two different letters. And then I think it will have it in the chambers because with the, much higher interest, because the first one was a kickoff to talk about what we were embarking upon. So that's why the consultant would, take more of a role to say, this is what we're embarking upon. This is how we're going to go about it. This one is about the findings that have been, and what's the next steps? Yes. And that's a September-ish timeframe.
And I think what Amy was saying is there were people who wanted to know, they wanted the answer. Is it gonna be
And you're like,
deemed
"Oh,
eligible?"
no."
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was a little dissatisfying for everybody.
Oops.
Oh, this is.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure.
Like, what happened?
Okay, so there we go. I've been looking at goal 4, in terms of outreach and incentives and so far. So our goal 4, just a reminder, is to improve outreach, review incentives, and develop the work program for the next year. And I kind of broke this down in the next slide of what each of the piece of this means, or my interpretation of it. So there's really 3 pieces to it. Improving outreach, which is improving outreach to materials and methods of outreach, reviewing the incentives, and improving outreach materials related to them, related to incentives for rehabilitation, and then developing the work program for next year. So additional historic preservation policy, looking at our current preservation policies and our current ordinance. So I'm jumping straight into what some of my ideas and possible actions could be, but please stop me if you have questions or comments or other ideas. I'm just jumping right into it. So for goal 4.1, to improve outreach, we have made the improvement to some of our outreach materials, the historic resources and permit review requirements, aka that bulletin that was on the website until 2016. We went through it last meeting and I felt like we had made some changes to the verbiage, we had talked about it, and unless I got this totally wrong, we felt like it was in a good revised place.
The last time we spoke about the bulletin.
Yeah. We have, put it this way, we haven't voted and there was no next step.
There was no proposed changes to the bulletin. There was just a discussion about how it was out of date and there needed to be a couple of things added to it. Right. So that we want to agendize that again and work on it a little bit.
So I think we need to agendize that again. We need to get that up on the website, because right now the website in its current form is helpful, but that bulletin really breaks it down if you're group A or group B, and then resources 1 and 2 or group A. Is this something where we need to wait for the reconnaissance survey to be done? Is that bulletin back up?
No, we don't have to. I had made some changes, draft changes back in 2018 after we adopted the comp plan, and those just never moved forward. So I can bring those forward to the board.
And if we're
And-
getting rid of that. If we want to take the opportunity to take those potentially eligible properties out of the mix, this would be our chance.
So just calling them priority 1 and 2 unevaluated, not further evaluated properties, to change the name of that.
Oh, I mean, totally. Because I mean, wasn't it just a policy decision within the planning department that decided that those should be evaluated? Can't we undo that decision, talk to Jonathan and maybe reevaluate that decision?
Yeah, I think it was a
It's a
decision.
lot of labor and a
It-
lot of money. I mean,
Yeah, it was a
$3,000 to
decision based on
$5,000.
the wording of that comp plan policy. So, and I
So let's
think
look
by
at it
the
again.
director of the time to figure out how to make it bite-sized as opposed to properties dating until 1980 or whatever it is now, to 70. Right? Because potentially eligible.
oh, you mean it could be worse?
Yes.
Oh, oh, okay. I'll think about that one.
Yeah, so I think in addition with this community meeting happening and people wanting answers, I think we should make it a priority to update the bulletin and repost it, so that we are providing as much information as we have.
Yeah, and with the bulletin too, like
Oh.
it seemed like it with a few tweaks, it was pretty close to being.
Yeah. it was
Samantha,
pretty
could you turn on your mic? Sorry, just leave it on.
Yeah.
It was pretty close. That's,
It was
and that's what I
pretty
remember.
close to being usable and repostable, and I think having something there is better than not
Yeah.
having anything at all.
Do you think it would be appropriate to to ask some of the people that attended that meeting to look at a draft for understandability and how they react to it?
Do we have record of who came?
Yeah, that meeting being the outreach meeting?
Yes.
Oh,
I think
I
like,
don't know if that really get you anywhere.
yeah, I think the information in the bulletin that the bulletin contains is not like this kind of the central focus of the folks who had concerns. I don't
Yeah.
think that was yeah.
Okay, one of them told me that she'd offered to do that and got no response. So that's the reason I brought it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you. That's unfortunate, but I don't know who she offered.
Well, I think I recall this as well. And I think, I don't know, I think we still might take her up on it for maybe some other things. Yeah.
I think it would be a good idea to do that.
Well,
Is she
and
the one on Waverly? Where? You don't know where she is.
well, and we'll get, and 4.2 or 4.3, we talk about community advocates. And I think that's like, yeah, that is exactly what we need, is a list
Yeah,
of
she would
community
like to.
advocates who are like, I want to help. Let me look at your
Yeah.
verbiage and tell you where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I would actually like to hear the thoughts from some of the people at the meeting on when we present what the incentives are, whether the incentives make sense to them, whether they're, interesting or potentially helpful to
So-
them. I'd actually be interested in their read on
Yeah,
that.
I really think. I was a little disappointed because what was put together and the structure that at least I had asked if we could see that in advance in some detail and put some real input into it. I think we're missing a real opportunity if these people actually showed up to not go to them and run some of this stuff by them.
I
You
have
know,
to
there's this
mention there was
notion-
only
there's
about
this- there's this
15 of them,
notion Thought
maybe.
leaders, notion of thought leaders, and we need to have some in the community who feel like they're actually being listened to, and we would probably benefit, whether we agree or not, with that, the tone and the detail with which they're willing to provide that.
So I.
Okay, so I would limit it.
Agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't limit it to people that were in the meeting. I would look at the community and I think it's a
And we'll
really,
touch- and
good
we're gonna
opportunity.
touch on-
I think it's a really good opportunity to find new HRB members.
Yep.
So I would volunteer my neighbor who owns the Julia Morgan. I think she's really smart and young, and I think she'd be a really good an analyst for,
I
anything.
think that would be great, but I really think the people that showed up should be definitely asked.
Do you know who they are, Christian?
Yeah, there
No,
were
I
minutes,
just meant
there were
when he
minutes of
was-
the meeting prepared.
I'm just saying, never mind.
So along with that, the in addition to areas where we could be more effective, the incentives page on the city website is not very actionable or user friendly. There, it is broken down by building code, municipal code. It's just a lot of information, and when you open it, it is this section in particular, it's straight from the code, which is great, but it's like it needs a translator.
Hmm.
It's the, what does this mean? What does this actually mean? How we get there and who does it and what that means. I think that's a huge project, but I think making this more accessible in language and in format and in the way it's presented, we would really benefit from.
That theme occurs over and over again in the documents that you sent us, the historic documents, this, that this understandability, user friendliness, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it just seems to me before you try to engage broad outreach, you do some focus group type testing. And, it's a way to find people who might want to join this board or become more active or be willing to go out into their, for example, a homeowners association, go to them and see if they would like somebody to participate in that process.
Yep. And then, so finally, in terms of content for outreach, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but this is from my assessment and I went pretty deep. So if I was a homeowner and trying to do this and I couldn't find it, then I'm assuming they wouldn't be able to either. We don't have a city page linked to with the eligible 1998 and 2023, or well, the 1998 survey or the specific Palo Alto inventory list. Like there's no list of the Palo Alto inventory.
There is.
I
There
think there
is?
is, but
Where?
it's just a list of building addresses. It doesn't have any information about any of them. Well, except categories.
Yeah, that.
And so this is this is the list
There's
from
that
the
list, and then there's also the inventory list.
So I couldn't even find the inventory list.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find, but
Yeah,
I think it's one
so-
of those links at the bottom.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it for you.
And I have some proposed examples of how other cities in the area have done it. The city of Los Altos, they have a historic inventory page, and then they have all these links right at the top. And then they have a landmarks list, which is a lot shorter, but helpful, that it's just written out. Like if you were to Google 571 Cherry Avenue, Los Altos, this would be one of the pages that'll show up and it'd be, oh, the Irwin Reich designated home. Or for example, this might be Pasadena. Oh no, this is Saratoga. They have their inventory as well. And then in the notes section, it has guidance as to whether it's a designated landmark, a Mills Act property, and so on. And I'll make this deck available to everybody so you can take a look at it. And then what slide am I on? Let's see. I think it's the next slide. So slide 8. The city of Los Altos has this beautiful historic resources inventory booklet that they put together that I have also linked to. It's fantastic. So just some examples of what other communities are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, it's all for good cause. So those are my ideas in terms of content for outreach. And then I think the second part of outreach and improving it is the methods and access of how we actually reach people. So number one being the current homeowners and future homeowners. We need to relist the historic resources bulletin that we talked about, obviously. Partnering with PAST and PAHA to get on their email distribution lists, in their newsletters, or whatever speaker boxes they have that they talk to their members about, which are interested parties. We should be partnering with them, even if it's like, hey, can you just put a link to the bulletin and say that we've republished it. That is the community that we know has a vested interest.
Well, I can do that, and once we get things to.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those things where it's like, they would be very willing. We just need to follow through and do the ask.
Cause they keep asking me, what do you have new that we can publish? And
Yep.
so, nothing new. Not yet.
Well, we do have a link to the survey that's going now. There's a presence on our webpage about that, and it has stuff. Did you find that in your
The survey?
travels? Or what we're undergoing right now?
Oh, the
is
yes, the
reconnaissance. Okay.
2023 reconnaissance survey.
Yeah.
I did find that. Yeah, I found that.
Because that's new.
That was right at the top on
Yeah.
the Historic Resources Board links. And then I know we can't talk to interested buyers of potentially historic homes, but how do we feel about like a FYI welcome packet with information about PAHA, past, and your property has been in this reconnaissance survey and was deemed blah, 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 and here's what it means to you. Here's the website where you can find out more information. Here's how to access a parcel report, and so on and so forth. Is that like overstepping our boundaries?
I think it has possibilities. I think we need a system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at, I think you might need to talk past into doing, because they're in a position where they can get a wide variety of volunteers. And I don't really know that we can loop in volunteer labor directly, although maybe we can. I don't know how that works. But I know through past it's possible, you know, and I think that we should kind of take your ideas and see what our priorities are, and maybe throw two of them out and see if maybe there's, you know, two groups of people at past, you know, who would find larger groups to do that. And I have to commit also comment that I think that might also be how we update our current survey. So there might be some competition for volunteer labor in the
Yeah.
near future. But I think we have some really good projects that people would be interested in. And I think that at least my experience with past has been that it tends to be a very enthusiastic group of volunteers who are interested in learning about old houses and properties and Palo Alto history. So I think there's a lot of possibility there.
And I think that speaks to the community influencers piece. Sorry, Gogo.
Yeah.
Go
Well, I
ahead.
was gonna say, you know, as far as the reaching out to each community, you know, we could partner with past and ask them to do a walking tour of that community.
Yep.
And I'm sure Bo has good stories about people that lived in nightclub houses, you know, maybe was grandmother from then lived here. you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that goes to creating community in how we reach the community and how we create advocates, finding these community influencers like Bo or like Lee, and how do we use them as extensions of the HRB to get our mission out? They're probably already doing it. It's just how do we kind of get a piece of their elevator pitch to be like, oh, and there's the Historic Resources Board, go check out their information. I think it would be interesting to do a community survey to just gauge interest from anyone in historic preservation and our assets. Do other people in the community care other than the people that are already past members and are already supporting PAHA? I think having HRB members on the past tours so that we have representation of the HRB to these communities in person would be great. And then there's there's always more documents that can be created on historic districts, the context, and there's some great examples. This is from Sunnyvale, and it's just the architectural styles. Yeah. And then finally, partnering with realtors. I know we've talked about this as well, going to some of the local associations and presenting to them. I think even just having a For Realtors page. This is from the National Association of Realtors, and it's on historic properties. And it's got some great links, some great information that's really honest about the benefits and drawbacks of owning a historic home.
So how do we link our information to something like that?
How do we what?
Who didn't our information directly to something like that?
That is a good question. This is more like national focused. I think we would need to create kind of like a one sheeter for,
We have a local group. I mean,
yeah,
So, I mean, that's, not just one real estate firm, but, a local group encompassing, the local real estate agents. And they give, they have talks, and I don't know how they distribute information, but I can find out.
yeah.
But I do think they're worth cultivating because they can spread misinformation as easily as.
Right.
So, okay.
But if we provide them with the
Yes.
correct and relevant information, at least we can say, well, but you had
No.
access.
If you treat them with respect and acknowledge their power, that will get you.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, and they can also be a source of really great information.
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
it's true.
For somebody who's looking for a home,
Yeah,
Right.
that's a huge resource.
yeah.
Well, also in terms of, with the realtors, I've talked to several of them and trying to get their perspective on. If you have a house that's listed on the inventory, what does that mean in terms of the saleability?
Right.
The buyers, they say it really narrows the buying pool and they see it as a negative thing. 'cause
Right.
They can't get as much money for it.
That depends on who you're talking to. I don't
But
think they
but
all
I
look
think
at it
if
that
we
way.
Say, well, but we've got all these incentives
Right.
in place and it's not about that. At least it will give them. Because they will take that information and they will pass it on to their
Yeah,
potential
no,
buyers.
I know. I think they're definitely worth
Because
communicating with.
they just wanna.
Yeah.
The bottom line, they just wanna sell a house.
They just want the money.
It's another avenue to the owners
Yeah.
that we should probably be working through. As a resource.
I think that talking to individual, so there is a group that meets on Fridays to disseminate information. But also, I think talking to the brokers and each of the offices in Palo Alto would be important. They have sales meetings either on Mondays or on Tuesdays. So those would be good times to connect with them and come into the office and speak about the incentives and so forth. And I do want to say, a lot of the longtime realtors in Palo Alto, they go through the exercise of getting more information on the home and who had lived there and so forth in order to provide. But we also have a lot of realtors that comes from out of town. And for them, it's just, let's sell something, right? So that's the thing that we have to kind of be cognizant about, because there's a lot of out of town realtors that come in and do not know the city, do not know its ordinances, do not know its tree rules, any of that, so we just want to make sure that when those comes in, that there's a way of reaching them as well.
It's always the out of towners.
Would you have a thought about how to reach that group?
No,
Okay.
it's very difficult. They
Yeah.
come from East Bay, they come from all over. I mean, we've had people come in from San Diego to come and sell here in Palo Alto or Los Altos, so they wouldn't know what,
No.
it's
I know.
just putting up a sign and
Yeah.
that's about it. But, local realtors, nearby city, Menlo Park or Los Altos realtors would know what Palo Alto
Yeah.
needs are.
What-
So those are the ones to focus. The other place that we could go is directly to Silvar, a Silicon Valley
Oh,
Association
I
of
think that's what you had
Realtors.
talked
Yeah.
about.
This
Amy,
is what I've
right?
done
Yeah.
twice in the past.
So you just go
Yeah.
directly to them and they might decide to disseminate the information that you give to them in one of their bigger meetings.
Do they still have, because COVID came along. and I think
It's
that
mostly
stopped.
online, Zoom.
Okay, Zoom
Yeah,
meetings, got it.
Zoom meetings.
So I haven't been invited back. I had,
Oh, no.
conversations many years ago before COVID and a couple of presentations that I did back. I think probably when the comp plan was modified.
Yeah, I think if you reach out to them and request to be on their agenda or to be a speaker, they will line you up in there.
So I wanted to ask about real estate agents. Are most of the ones from out of town the buyer's agent, or most of the listing agents, are they local?
Most of the listing agents that I see when I'm looking through the inventory, they are mostly local, but there are the few that
Just
comes
very-
in and they are listing agents because they sold the house to the
Yeah.
person. Most of them are buyer agents.
But it makes me think that if we could, if we had. If we knew something was coming on the market or had some way of monitoring when things came on the market, if we could get that information. To the listing agent, so it would be available in disclosures or, whatever that, that it would be. One way to get it to the other the other side.
This
buyer.
might be for an app and a crystal ball of what's gonna come next month.
I just think back to some of the things that Samantha has talked about is just having some of these, the inventory, for instance, being accessible online, or the DPR reports are not available online. You have to go through special avenues to get that. But if we can kind of make some of this information more accessible, then anyone who's types in that address, these things are going to come up.
You
for
want it
them.
to come up.
Yeah, so I think that's the goal. It's not, I mean, it'd be hard to reach, every realtor and every person and give them this information. If we
Yeah.
just make the information widely available,
Yeah.
they'll find it. on
I
their
think
own.
also the more it's available on the internet, the more kids are gonna read it, the more our history is gonna kind of get out there
Yeah.
in the world. And I think there's a lot to be said for entering the modern age. you know, Having this information where, anybody can find it at your fingertips, And
Well,
not-
and a lot of these houses are represented on the past website. They've got.
They
a-
are,
Yeah.
that's the thing. You
Yes.
put
Yeah,
in the
we
address
scared
and you're
them.
like,
We go.
Yeah,
there
I'll go
live.
Stanford Heritage. Oh, yeah.
It's their information so much for photos and references.
Yeah,
and
because they have
videos.
color
Well, and-
photos. I
yeah,
mean,
they
our
do it.
sad little DPR forms from back in the
They
day
do
are
it.
But
black and white.
a lot of their stuff is based on our DPR forms,
Oh,
right?
all
Yeah,
the
it's like,
typed
yeah.
stuff Is directly from the DPRs,
Yeah.
and then they have
Yeah.
a color photo, so
Yeah, they're doing a lot of work for us.
they are.
So we don't. have to
That's
pay
why
for
we
it.
nominated them for
Yeah.
for an award.
Yeah. Well,
But we need to do our part too, because I just randomly pulled up two before our meeting tonight, and it's like I think the address is wrong on one. I was reading to somebody before the meeting, there was like a little note about, it looks like it's this house, but it doesn't look like the house that's at the address. It looks like it's the one. So I think there's cleanup work to be done on the existing inventory, and I can email Carolyn George and ask her to do it for me. But I think there's probably a limit to that. So I think it would be good if we sort of methodically went through the inventory and, especially ones that are demolished and stuff. Actually, maybe a lot of those demolitions probably are noted on the past website now that I think
they
about
are,
it.
yeah.
So I guess we just need to upgrade our version,
Well, the
They're way
parcel
ahead of it.
reports, the parcel reports is the version, is the tool that's 24/7 that the realtors can go, any interested buyer, sellers, they can go see, and it corrects for the address problems too, because it's just based on the parcel number,
Oh,
right? So if it was listed in the inventory as 222, but on our system, you pull up that parcel number.
That particular one was a subdivision or something. I don't know.
Right, they'll come along
It
and
was a little weird.
subdivide, and then that address is no longer applicable, right? But
Yeah.
it should still be applicable because on the parcel report system, which is what we've heavily relied upon, that people are looking for a specific parcel and they'll see the information that way, but when they're looking at the list, it'll look like not full
Unprofessional, is that the word we're looking for?
1970s.
Well, it's.
Oh,
easy
you're
to
right.
change your
It'll just look
address.
vintage.
It's easy to change your address because we did it.
Oh, okay.
405 Embarcadero,
Good to know.
and my husband said, no, that sounds so awful, let's make it 1331 Waverly.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So it
interesting.
does sound much better.
It's very easy,
Yeah.
except I had to change all the documents. We got 2 tax bills, one
Mhm.
for 405, one
Oh,
for 1331.
oops.
The parcel numbers are much more accurate.
Yeah, when you're on a corner lot, you can choose which one. It doesn't matter where your door is. Yeah. It doesn't matter where the front property line is either.
So I'll go fast through the next two, but the second part of goal 4 is reviewing the incentives to rehabilitation, which we've talked at length and we'll continue to talk about the Mills Act. we've talked about the possible packet or outreach for home buyers. I think something that could go in there would be the articles on home ownership, like they have on the realtor's website, as well as the information on past plaques. I saw a PSA on the past site about like, hey, if your home was built, if you think your home was built in 2023, it may have actually been 2022. So, you know, check the parcel report, do some digging, and you could be eligible for your plaque. The incentives page, again, is comprehensive but hard to read and action on. I found from Page and Turnbull in their report that you sent us, Amy, it says, these incentives are only available to property owners whose property is listed on the historic inventory. And I wanted to check, is that true? Because that's a huge limiting factor as well. Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So like the
that's correct.
HIE, that you get extra square footage if you want to modify, that's categories 1, 2, 3, and 4. It used to be.
Oh,
just
it is
category
1, 2,
and
3, and
2.
4. Okay.
It's all 4 now, and that happened like 3 years ago or something.
Okay.
Maybe 4 now.
And then we don't have, that I'm aware of, an award program. I don't know if PAST has an award program, but
They do.
they do. PAST does. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So maybe that's kind of the stand-in, but Pasadena has a great award program, and which just creates the goodwill with the owners and reasons to continue to put money into their property and upkeep it. Again, this is incentives, preservation incentives in other cities. This is from the city of Los Angeles. This is Pasadena, and this is linked. Don't try to read it. But they have really interesting incentives, like reduction of building permit fees and construction tax, or waiver of covered parking requirements. Just little stuff that isn't like, here's a big bag of money to put into your property. It's just little incentives that doesn't hurt. Again, don't, it's really small. Don't try to read it, but this will be linked.
So are you gonna send us all this?
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, of course. Again, this is the Mills Act that's linked to Cambril, Gilroy, Los Altos, including their list of their current structures in the Mills Act and Saratoga. And then finally, the work program for 2024. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I reviewed the ordinance. It's seemingly effective because it's so vague. The enforcement, we haven't really like boxed ourselves in. The enforcement, the current fine for demo of part of a historic structure is $1,000. And I was like, that's nothing. And then the civil penalty is not to exceed $10,000. And I was like, anyone would gladly pay that.
Exactly.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
So there is a 20-year moratorium though, which actually would hurt them. So that part seems more effective.
How many times do we reinforce that?
Yeah, right.
I don't even know what you're talking about, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What is
so
that?
the money won't hurt them, but apparently they can't, if they, the way I'm reading it, is if they demolish a structure and we slap them on the wrist and say, you weren't supposed to do that, you didn't have a permit, they can't build for 20 years.
I read something like
Wow.
that, but I don't remember the 20-year part, but I do remember.
That's
the
So
rest.
that, those must be category,
That's in our ordinance.
is that downtown?
It's in 16.49.090.
I'll have to check it out.
Bring that up.
Yeah, so
Because I mean, I'm sure that it doesn't apply to category 3.
that's what I'm doing.
structures.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
So anyway, and then as we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, unfortunately, there's no current benefit to designation as the code is written. Other than being on that historic, I guess, the historic inventory.
Right, in which case you can take advantage of the incentives,
Right.
which is.
So I guess, so this isn't true. The no current benefit is not true. It's just, yeah, you have to be on the inventory.
And there are, I guess, state, I don't know if they've put the pool of money out there like they were supposed to do a couple of years ago, but they have this new, the law that went into effect where you could get a break on your income taxes or something. If
I
it- yeah.
was reading about that and I was
Yeah.
trying to find if there was any eligibility, like if you make a certain amount, you're not
Yes.
eligible, because that would probably.
That I can.
Anyone who lives in Palo
So,
Alto makes too much money.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you've bought a home
It's
in
not gonna
Palo
work for us.
Alto, you know, kind of even semi-recently, the chances are you earn too much to qualify for the state level program. It may benefit some longer term homeowners, but for people who've recently purchased it, it's not helpful.
So that is my assessment of goal 4.
It's a lot of work. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Happy to. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's
Especially
not
looking at- It's nice to have looked for others, at other cities as well, because that's
Yeah.
time consuming and I appreciate that you did that.
Well, I mean, I think there are some great examples that are really leading the pack in California, like Pasadena, the Getty, you'll get this whole packet, anything that's underlined, anything that's an image, click on it, it's linked to the resource, so you can go through them. The Getty Institute has some great preservation materials, that I've linked. And I think the next step will just be, you know, it's like, great, these are all great ideas, just how do we prioritize them? And then what do we actually do? So that part I don't have a plan for yet, but if we like
Certainly, I
these
think the
ideas-
web page, web page
Right,
fixes.
the bulletin,
I mean, I'm not a web designer person, so we have to go through IT to get anything done, but certainly if there were like, oh, I hate to say it again, but subcommittee to
Yeah.
focus on, hey,
it's me.
yeah, right? You're the
Well,
subcommittee.
It seems
Um,
like to the incentives page, making a version of that or some sort of bulletin for that, that's a
Yeah.
little bit more clear than just like the code excerpts, that could be useful and again, pretty achievable.
I know there's a way that you can like bit.ly or whatever. There's things that you can do instead of listing the code out, that it's just click here and then, it'll take you to the code or
Right,
whatever. Yeah.
right.
Instead of,
It's like this code gives you more floor plan, gives you more square footage if you want, if blah, 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 here's the
Yeah.
code, like,
it's a little wonky and bureaucratic looking right now.
yeah.
Very,
Yeah,
very wonky and.
yeah, it's just like, who's gonna read this?
Well, for immediate action, I can go to the past board
Great.
and ask them to take a look at maybe helping us create that welcome packet.
That would be
And
great.
also to do a walking tour of the Eichler neighborhoods and Barron Park neighborhood.
And I think it would be good, to Christian's point, to start a list. I don't know, I have it, or between myself and Lee from past, or between myself and you, Go, we start a kind of a list of community advocates that are willing to advocate on past behalf, on the HRB's behalf. I don't know what else we would call on them to do, but having a list of names at least.
I think it'll be important to have people that can come to a community meeting
Yes.
for this next phase of the survey.
Yeah.
So it's helping people understand what we're doing, helping people understand that it's not the end of the world to be nominated. And the incentives, the benefits, it's not only not the end of the world, it's actually a good thing, because
Right.
you get these incentives.
And that's an example of something we should get for sure in the past bulletin, to be like, hey, even if you don't have anything to say, we would love your support, just love you to be there,
Mhm.
I just want to read this section of the 20-year part, so we don't go off with a totally wrong idea.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just want to clarify. If the site of an unlawfully demolished historic structure from which development rights have been transferred shall not be developed in excess of the floor area ratio of the demolished structure for a period of 20 years
Oh,
from the unlawful
TDRs.
demolition. Yeah.
What's that?
Transferable
Okay.
development, right? So
So it's not everything, but there is a 20-year wait, you can't develop it in excess of the floor area of the demolished structure. So,
Okay, so if they,
so it's not like if you demolished a house, you can't build on it for 20 years.
So we have a program where they can do historic rehab and then, document everything. And then
Commercial buildings.
sell, yes, commercial buildings, and then sell to a property located in the downtown. The transferable development rights, so that they can add the floor area to a non-historic property instead of the historic property adding to their own property and making it less historic, basically, because they've added
whoa,
on.
okay, that is like way over my, okay, that's a whole nother level, but okay, good, thank you for clarifying. I wish it was a 20-year moratorium on,
Yeah.
you weren't supposed to demolish that,
Right.
that would, I know, $10,000.
But I
and you
didn't
can't
know
build.
that's in there, so that's interesting.
Okay,
Probably, it hasn't happened in my 25 years here, so that's good news. That I'm aware of.
and yes, I can send this out to everybody, or I can give it to Veronica and she can.
Thank you.
Samantha, that was great. Thank you.
Happy to present to this group, so thank you for the time.
Ready to move on to the next item? Is it housekeeping next? General
Yes, housekeeping, I just lumped them together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, one of the discussion topics was, was there a concept about meeting in the evenings? Do we want to think about quarterly evening meetings, or is there something that you would like to talk about with that? I mean, we're on the schedule, right? We're on the schedule in several ways. The bylaws say when we meet and,
Yeah. I mean,
time and stuff.
I guess one thing I just wanted to raise about our meeting time is that it is during business hours.
Yeah.
And so that limits who can participate as a board member, but it also limits who can attend the meetings and learn about what we're doing and speak publicly. So I having some evening meetings as possibilities, I think might broaden attendance and be a bit more inclusive to people who are really unable to attend during business hours.
It helps forward that goal of community outreach and advocacy.
But it is harder on staff. So it
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
balance.
Mhm.
But maybe we need to look at, certain times a year, like maybe in the fall, that would work great, or, and not, I don't know, maybe we could build it into our schedule in a limited way and see how that works and go from there. But especially, I mean, it's not just Amy, but if we want somebody else from the city come and talk to us too,
Mhm.
I think we need to at least consider that.
How do other boards and commissions handle this?
Well, the Architecture Review Board is one such board that meets twice a month, except when they don't. And they're professional architects on that board. And so it's just on their calendar and they come.
Mhm.
And then, of course, they really have projects. I mean, they're, development projects. So those consultants and property owners are obviously motivated to come and present their project and get approval,
Mhm.
or recommendation for approval. So that kind of is motivating enough for all those people. Now, people that do come and comment on things, are they concerned? I mean, if they're concerned enough about a project going up next door to them, a development,
Mhm.
they'll find the time to come to that meeting and, support or talk about it being a problem. So,
Mhm.
so I think that kind of is a different type of board. Whereas this one, we rarely have an actual project. We
Mhm.
rarely have, I mean, I can count on my two hands the actual projects that I've seen come through in the last 4 years. So we don't have addressed projects coming to the board so much
I think it would help in terms of
because our ordinance.
over time recruiting younger people who are in the middle of their careers. And I think that's very important. So I would suggest maybe every other month we try one.
Mhm.
One of the two every other month and see how that goes, something like that. So it's not a big changeover, but at least we have enough. And after 6 months, we'd have our toe in the water. We know how it works.
Is it possible to try it?
You can
Is
do a
it
special
is
meeting, like
it-
this is a special meeting.
Okay.
As opposed to a regular meeting. So we have our regular meetings that occur
Uh-huh.
X, Y, and you don't have to have all of those, but that's when the regular meetings occur that day, that time
Mhm.
in the chambers. But this is a special meeting, so you can
Mhm.
decide in advance, you want to have a special meeting on a
Mhm.
quarterly basis, on every other month, however you think of it, I mean, I
Mhm.
think with this historic survey, reconnaissance survey being top of the news right now, and we're about to launch into the next steps. I think that certainly we're gonna have that community meeting in September,
Yes.
right? We could have another community meeting or something, special meeting in October or November,
Mhm.
because right now we have on the books 2 daytime meetings a month.
Mhm.
And
But we only have one in November and December, so there might be an opportunity to have a special meeting in November instead of our unscheduled Thanksgiving.
we could
Yeah.
try for the every other month. I mean, it's July. We could do it again in September because we have that community meeting.
Mhm.
And then the next one could be November,
Yeah.
so it's like every other month. I know we were looking towards dates. I can't recall off the top of my head what that date is. Did we talk about a date? Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
September generally.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
because it was gonna happen after we got this survey, the drafts. We do have the draft now. Next step is get the letters
Mhm.
and get those out. And those letters should probably say when the meeting is. So,
When you go to look at the schedule, can we just kind of maybe come up with a
we could do that
a
now.
soft date for the September one, and then if
Mhm.
there's, I also know that like space may be an issue, you know, rooms are booked, and so
Yeah,
perhaps we need to find a day or a time
right.
where the
Council
room's
has it
available.
Monday, every Monday of the month except the last one. So that's a possibility. The last Monday of the month, is a possibility. There's Utilities Commission that's on 2 meetings a month on Tuesdays. Planning Commission that I liaison for 2 meetings a month, the second and last. Thursday night, I don't know what's going on. There's also committees. Parks and Recreation Commission is on Thursdays. Okay.
So a lot of them do meet in the evenings.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's only you and ARB that.
meet daytime.
Daytime.
We also
Mm.
have 8:30. Wait, that was me. I pushed it to 8:30. Yeah. I had babies. I'm like, 8:30. Yeah, we have directors hearings. Those are very infrequent in the afternoons. So, I mean, another thing is, maybe later in the afternoon, people have brought their kids home from school. They can get babysitters at 4 or something, I mean, there could be a late afternoon option to think
Mhm.
about. Maybe we should discuss that, Does it need to be 7 o'clock? Could it be 5 o'clock, because that would allow
Yeah.
for staff, we work 9-hour days, staff is still here.
Uh-huh.
So, 5:36 on a regular basis.
Yeah, and stuff.
Would staff be able to like come in later on a day we were gonna meet in the evening? Is that something that staff is available, it can do?
Yeah, I
has
mean, there's
the power
flex,
to
there's
do?
obviously SEIU staff, and so we pay them overtime to come on the evenings. But somebody like me, I'm just a manager, so I come, and when I need to come, I work whatever, more hours than, some days more, some days less, it's.
Right, you're not like an hourly
No,
employee,
I'm a manager, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there's no,
and they don't mandate that you like have to be in the city building at 8 AM type of thing.
yeah. Mm. We have standard hours, but we have also flexible hours. So
Okay,
people can
good.
set their schedule. If they want to start at 7:30, go for it.
Got
They want to start at 9 and stay till later, that's okay too. And then there's like across the street at the development center, we have set counter hours that have to be staffed and have to have backup plans and stuff. So it's a long story. But
No,
certainly
I want to make sure that like today, we're, gonna go till 8 and that you weren't here at 8 AM and we're pushing you to like a
Yeah.
12-hour day type of thing.
Well, I mean, I started work at 8, but I didn't start it here. I started it in the comfort of my home.
Mm.
So we have 3 days a week now that we're coming in. But no,
I'm like,
don't worry about
I'm like,
me.
how do we do this respectfully? for the
Yeah.
staff?
I mean, the 5 o'clock sounds like maybe it works better for staff schedules. I mean, that does seem like because it's at the end of what would be a standard work day for people who may want to attend or participate. Yeah, I mean, that, I think that's, better than like the entire morning, which is the way it is now, it's easy. I think it's easier to tell an employer, I'm gonna leave half an hour early than it is to
Yeah.
tell them I'm going to be like 2.5 hours late,
It's hard to be late. Yes, it
Yeah.
doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Bad optic.
Yeah, so I think, do people, how do
So maybe for
people
the
feel about
community meeting
this?
in September, we should look at a 5 o'clock start, if that sounds good. We'll kind of gear up towards that. We'll do a doodle poll, see what day in September works for that, for all of you,
Maybe the beginning of October.
for the community meeting. Okay, are you out in September?
I have things happening the end of
Okay.
September, but I mean, it's workable, but
I'm sorry, is this the regular meeting?
The special meeting.
special meeting.
Yeah, I would really like to be around it. I can probably get you the dates. I'm gonna be gone next week.
I'm gonna go back to this that I'm glad I put. So yeah, it was the 14th, we had 2 people out.
It was looking a little iffy, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
and the 28th, I think one person at least was talking about being out. Right? So anyways, that's Thursday mornings.
Yeah.
So
But
And-
we're talking about evening.
an evening meeting, right? So it could be a Thursday evening. I have to just look at the city calendar to see what the obstacles
Actually,
are.
if we stick with those dates, I'm okay.
Even if you're,
It's if we pick the one in the middle, it's not so good.
Mhm.
if it was not special meetings, I would think a Thursday evening would be a better evening than Friday. And
Yes,
Any-
so yeah, it's just a matter of coordinating with, what are the other
right,
commissions'
but
schedules.
it's later in the week, you know.
Mhm.
I don't think we're switching all our meetings now. We're gonna do special meetings every other month or something, right? We're not.
No, I
gonna-
was just
We're
saying,
not gonna
if it has to be a special meeting to,
be in the
move it.
evening.
Try to stick with the same dates that are already on your calendar, just make
Yes.
that an evening, I get that,
that's what
yeah,
I'm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
so-
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of easier to plan.
Yeah, so we can find out date certains of planning commission meeting, or sorry, Parks and Recreation Commission meetings, if they're the Thursday people, right? And then on the alternate Thursday, when they don't meet, then we can see how that
Make
jives with
plans.
the schedule, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not too hard of a
Yeah.
challenge, so.
So maybe we try it for that special meeting and then another time in the fall.
It's not Thanksgiving or.
Yes. Not that.
And did you say that we're not having a meeting on August 10th, cross that out?
I crossed it out and, part of that is I had a conversation with, we're doing this meeting, so that would be, the packet would be next week and I don't have anything to put in the packet at this point. Not only that, I won't be here next week. I have just a personal, my baby, who's 18, is going off to college. And the good news, yes, thank you. She got accepted to a nice school, but off the wait list. And so we do not have a place for her to live, her and her new potential roommate, Long Beach. And so it's a bit of an ordeal.
The Queen's Mary.
Yeah, she can't stay there all year, maybe for 2 weeks while we wait for something to be.
Even if you're not on the wait list, it's a bit of. Even if you know it earlier.
Right, well, some schools have dorms for freshmen,
Yeah.
some schools don't. So, yeah, so I am not here next week. And to get a packet out while I'm not working is more than challenging. And we're doing this tonight, so I figure I get a pass. So,
That's enough to worry
Yep.
about.
yeah,
So on the 24th, we'll talk about the Millsack.
yes, we can do
Okay.
that. I was gonna get back to our agenda to see if there's, sorry, I am. Oop,
I don't see the 20, sorry, I didn't see the 24th of
August.
of August. thank you.
Yeah.
oop, wait,
Sorry, which would be our next meeting.
where is it? I have more stuff
Oh,
on
thank
here.
you. There we go.
The next meeting would be the second meeting of, I just wanted to get back to this screen because we didn't finish out our agenda.
Yeah.
Um,
And I realized I haven't asked this. We don't have anybody waiting for public comment, do we? Oh, no. Okay, great.
oh,
Because there's somebody very patient there, yeah.
that's really good though to do that. So yeah, it's August 24th is our next meeting. HRB morning.
All right. Are there other housekeeping items?
Well, I brought up earlier that I think even when we're not going to be in attendance, it would be nice to get a packet.
Oh, yeah.
So I would,
Oh, so they don't deliver one if you're confirmed absence.
I don't know, I didn't get one.
For today?
No, for the meeting I missed the beginning of June, I think.
Oh, the meeting I missed, I got a packet.
You did?
You mean a physical pack?
Yeah,
Oh, hard copy packet?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure I got the email either now that I think about it. But maybe I was a little distracted.
Hmm.
I was back east.
I think we always send out the email to everybody regardless of
Okay.
it being there, because it
Okay.
could come back and we want them to follow along.
Okay,
And I
If
got
you've
it.
said, I'm not gonna be here, we don't want to deliver something and have it sit on your porch indicating you're gone.
Oh.
So that's part of
I
it.
can sit on my porch.
Okay.
That's very considerate.
I guess you're right. For most people, that's probably great.
You know, I mean, I don't think any package thief is gonna be interested in an HRV packet. Sorry.
But they
It's
might
just
be
it's
interested
that
in the
exciting.
house, so.
Yeah, it might make your house empty, but
Yeah.
they always
What-
put them
what
on
is-
my porch, which is not visible.
Since those are go out by courier, what is your deadline to get them out? When is the packet?
The packet goes out usually on the Thursdays before the meeting, a week before. In fact, our board and commission handbooks, I believe, say that a week before the packet is when.
Okay,
you
so
know.
this
Yeah.
was,
Council gets them 2 weeks before or something.
okay, so,
11 days.
11 days.
so you could send something in the mail as opposed to a courier. I'm a little far away
Mm,
now.
I see.
I don't think that makes sense to have a courier go, I mean, maybe to San Jose, but not to where I am. So,
Oh, where you are in the coming, for the next packet?
probably
next year.
for the next year.
I see. Where are you? Do you mind my?
Calistoga.
Oh, nice.
I mean, I'm coming down here for the meetings.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
And I don't mind getting soft copy, but when they're 100 pages long, it's
Mm.
hard to print them out.
I think mailing it to.
I mean,
I think
that's how I
a
did.
reasonable request.
I didn't have them send one this last week because it was gonna go to somebody else, but I don't wanna.
I mean, Veronica, have we sent a courier up to Calistoga?
No, I called
I
and
see.
said, don't send. it
Yeah,
to the-
we'll not send yours by courier.
No, I've already-
From here forth, send it
Yeah,
by mail.
yeah, that would be great.
All.
Yeah, I think so too, if they'll get there.
We could do it and maybe a day before the day that you should send it out.
Even
Yeah,
if even if it was a little bit more
Yeah,
expensive
that's
post
safe.
office.
Yeah, if the reports have been reviewed by, I mean,
A lot of it's timing on your part.
yeah, I mean,
But
at
to be
least for
honest, I
HRB
haven't
packets, they're
opened
not
it.
reviewed by, 6, 7 staff people, so.
Okay. So,
We could do overnight UPS, I mean, it might be cheaper actually to
Yeah.
do express or whatever.
Yeah, I
it is.
was wondering.
I was just saying, post office express is gonna be less than a courier,
Yeah.
so.
But then things can go wrong too, like I sent my daughter's passport to,
Oh, no.
and it went to the neighbor who is a hoarder and it disappeared in her hoard.
But
hoarding,
it's
so-
still there and safe.
Well, we had to cancel it because she was flying to France, so we had to book a flight to Seattle so she could go to the passport office in Seattle. But I digress, where we should. And a hotel to stay, yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds awful.
Very expensive passport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually would happen.
But in return, she got to stay in the south of France for a month, so,
That would be motivating.
All right.
and it wasn't her money anyway, so it's the bottom line.
All right. Well, anything else?
I put on here
This
two
or-
annual retreats as because this is kind of a retreat, and I can't remember the last time we did this. We did have
Retreat gonna be in
COVID.
the south
so-
of France.
Oh, retreat, oh, yes, I
Kind
like
of
that
had one, but it
idea.
wasn't very
After it gets a little cooler.
retreat-ish.
again,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
So we want to talk about annual retreat time of year. Is there? I mean, I would say summer is not it myself, but it seems like fall is when you get geared up for
Yeah.
stuff.
Back to school.
Yeah,
I
like,
I would like early in November when before Thanksgiving and all the holidays start, but.
yeah,
after
but
October.
then that's like sort of late enough that you're already thinking about.
Well, thinking is one thing, putting it together is another, so. Any other preferences?
Yeah.
It
I mean, I
sounds like
think
that,
it's
you know,
better
things
to have-
kind of shift.
I think it's
a
better to
little.
have fall than spring. I mean, we have our elections of, or sorry,
New members.
new members coming in April-ish,
Yeah, I think. the
right?
fall's
So we wouldn't want to do it. We could do it before that. But anytime April and the couple months might be a little too soon.
Unless we decide to do it more towards the beginning of the year, because we kind of gear ourselves up and come up with our work plan
Mhm.
during maybe it's a January kickoff event. Like today, I feel like we talked about so many things, now we're all done low.
So do it before we do our work
We do
plan.
in the fall, we're like, see you next year, yeah, because that's come Thanksgiving, everyone checks out.
Yes.
Maybe February would be a good time because then that gives staff, we take a winter
And we
break as
establish
well.
our goals for
back.
the year.
Mhm.
That might be a good idea.
And then
Okay.
refine them over the next, month or
Yeah.
whatever.
And
to
we
get
could
them-
do this February, wait, instead of doing 18 months, we could do. 6
Yeah,
months, and then we
in
can get on that.
2024, yeah.
I like that.
I think that's
Sure.
actually a good idea. February works for me.
No major holidays.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day.
I mean,
I think that's a holiday. isn't it?
there is the President's Day week where schools closed, so there is, yeah, there's that.
Like the 20th or something.
Yeah.
But we could work around that, right?
Yeah. Maybe the last
there.
February meeting of the month, maybe, or no, maybe the first one.
Yeah.
The first
Yeah.
one. So, I don't know.
First one in February.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we in terms, cause you're talking about recruiting new members, I mean, when is your, who's, I think I'm probably the next person who's gonna be out, right? 'Cause I've been here a long time.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't be back.
We may have
Michael
a- we may have
will
a
probably
vacancy.
exit, I mean, just
Yeah.
based on what his.
That's what we were questioning.
They have an expiration
But
date.
if you wanted,
I have sour milk by now.
no, you're not. But there's nothing to stop you from taking another term, is there? Unless you don't want to. Okay.
Well, I think we do.
Well, no,
I
I
think
think-
council's policy now, right? Like 2 terms or
think
something.
term
Is that
out.
true?
remember how many terms, but there is a,
There's no term.
Something.
Yeah.
I think you term out. 'cause
I
I've
think
been
it's
doing it
2.
for-
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it retroactive for
Yeah.
legacy
Yeah, I
people?
don't know.
I can't believe, did it be that long? 10 years? I mean, I know I 3. Did it when I was living in Palo Alto and I've since moved. And that I moved over 8 years.
I haven't been doing it that long, so
Well, we could find
I've
out.
been here though.
Usually when they impose
I
that, you
think I
can
started in 14.
get one cycle.
Okay,
Why does that
so.
make, why does it work?
You were here when Matt
Probably
was
should
here,
replace Margaret.
Matt,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And then you were here with Emily Vance, our last
Yes.
historic planner.
Yes.
She left in twenty
I was here
eighteen.
before Matt, because then Matt was new.
Yeah.
New.
He was like 2015 to 2016. He was around for the Professorville guidelines
Yeah.
and
so
she was
I-
around for the Eichler guidelines.
I think I might have started in 14. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think I will term out, right? Because if I first term with it.
So I hate to say it, but it's 8:02 and we have our,
I'm looking at that far.
oh,
That's slow. It is.
well,
too.
should we believe Apple?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Their consensus on the time, yeah.
8:02.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
We made it
and-
through the agenda.
Yeah, we did. And we can just do the minutes next meeting.
Yeah,
We'll just
postpone, fine.
move that. Okay, cool. Yeah, so do we have
Move to adjourn, I
to
guess.
adjourn? Do we? All right. All right. All in favor?
I.
All right.
And I apologize for not, I'm like.